we're back again for another part of my Nintendo 64 collection video, so let's get cracking with the games. Mission Impossible. The first film was okay, not great. I preferred the second Mission Impossible film. The actual game itself was pretty good. Fairly easy to get through. It's a one-player campaign on that one, no multiplayer or anything else like that. One thing about this game was that it was hyped so much. All the magazines were talking about this like it was going to be, the huge game that it was. It was going to have all these, really cool features. Never really lived up to it, to be honest. There was too much hype behind this game. And if you compare it to games like Metal Gear Solid, which was kind of what they were hoping to do, it just gets beaten down on this one. It did have some really cool features though, like especially when you're doing some of the spy missions, lots of cool gadgets to use and sneaking around, but ultimately a pretty average game. Waverace 64, really great jet ski racing game. It had the Kawasaki sponsorship in there. The reason why this game was so popular was it was one of the early Nintendo 64 games when there weren't too many games around on the system. So a lot of people would buy games just because there weren't a huge number around. But when they actually played this, it was a really good arcade style racer. Very similar, used to see jet ski racing games all the time in the arcade, so this was kind of like a home equivalent if you want to look at it like that. Again, lots of things to unlock in this one. A lot of people don't know about them, but you can ride things like dolphins once you unlock those. The main thing that I really like about this game is the water effects. No game on the Nintendo 64 shows off the the power to deal with real-time water effects than this one. Nice little game, multiplayer mode as well, but it's not that great. It's better single-player mode. Another early Nintendo 64 release is Dinosaur Hunter. Not a great game, to be honest. A lot of people really like this game. I just never really got into it. You play as a dinosaur hunter, so a little bit different than most first-person shooters. Some cool weapons in there as well. This game suffered from a lot of fogging, so you couldn't see too far into the distance, and the controls were, they were okay, a little bit loose, but there were a lot of jumping and platforming elements which you need tight controls for, and sadly this game didn't have it. Not a bad game, really cheap to buy because there was loads of copies and it was one of the earlier Nintendo 64 games. This one's Body Harvest by DMA. If you don't know DMA, they were kind of part of the Grand Theft Auto team at Rockstar, kind of like a sort of separate breakaway division. The game was okay. It's an absolutely huge game. It spans different periods in time. If you've ever played Grand Theft Auto, this is kind of like one of the earlier versions of it, but it's set around space rather than being in a city. They actually use the same engine for all the cars and the driving mechanics that they actually built for this game. So it's a little bit of history there for you. The game itself, it was okay. Again, like Turok, it suffered from a lot of fogging, so you couldn't see too far in the distance. The graphics do look really dated now when you play it. It's kind of like drive around, drive to different areas, help villagers, small bits of RPG elements in there, but it's pretty much an action game, taking out an alien invasion. Pretty fun game, really cheap to buy because it wasn't popular at all, and it didn't sell anywhere near as much as they thought it was going to do. And again, it did have quite a bit of hype behind it as well, so it was a bit of a disappointing game on the Nintendo 64, but nevertheless a little cheap game for you to pick up. Track and Field Summer Games. Again, it's a track and field game. Everyone remembers Track and Field from the Super Nintendo and the NES before that. Even though this is not part of the series, they were kind of, I think, cashing in on that one. It's a summer events game, everything that you'd expect on there, from weightlifting, pole vaulting, swimming, running, that kind of thing. Pretty good game, multiplayer. Bit of a button basher, but doesn't really have much longevity to it. Top Gear Rally, again a relatively early Nintendo 64 game. It's a rally racing game, part of the Top Gear series, so I talked about Top Gear Overdrive in one of my earlier videos. This was the first one in the series. Graphics are okay, pretty bog standard, a little bit bland and a bit predictable with the different style of racing, but a fairly average arcade racer, cheap to pick up, so just add it to your collection if you've just got a few quid knocking around. Another one, F1 World Grand Prix. This is the first one. I've already talked about the second one already. Basically, this is F1 World Grand Prix, just with the year before's drivers, sponsors, everything else like that. Pretty fun game. Came out around the same time as Mario Kart 64, so everyone got that one instead. So this one was always really cheap. I think about a month after its release, it was already in the sort of bargain bin section of the local game shop, and they had tons of copies in, and they just couldn't shift them. Not the best game, but if you like Formula 1 racing games, this one's not a bad choice. International Superstar Soccer 64. Probably the best football game on the Nintendo 64. ISS 2000 was the one that a lot of people want to play, but that's really rare to pick up. So if you do see ISS 2000, buy it. Especially in the USA, it's a really expensive and rare game to get hold of. But over here in PAL Europe regions, the sequel's fairly cheap and easy to find. But this one, again, it's an early Nintendo 64 sports games. A lot better than some of the other ones, but it looks pretty dated when you play it now. AllStar Baseball 1999. Again, I'm not a huge baseball fan, but me and my brother still got this when it came out. Again, because we used to get most games just to give them a play. This one's pretty much standard baseball. If you know baseball rules and you understand it, you'll probably love this game, but we were never huge baseball fans. But the graphics were really nice, controls seemed to play pretty well, and a lot of customization, things that you could do, and it was part of the Acclaimed Sports series, so again, if you like the other Acclaimed Sports games, then you'll probably like this one. And Turok 2, Seeds of Evil. We got this one at Christmas when it came out. This was a big game. All the magazines were hyping this one. It was getting a lot of coverage on TV adverts, things like that. We got it the Christmas that it came out. It uses the expansion pack, so the graphics can be in a higher resolution than the standard mode. A pretty average game. It's a lot better than the first one. We used to play this one relatively for the first month that we had it. After that, we never really played it. It wasn't as fun as GoldenEye, which is a game that everybody was wanting and still playing at the time. But if you like Turok Dinosaur Hunter, then you'll naturally like Turok 2. So that's all the videos. That's all the games even for this part of the video. Join me again soon. I'll be doing another selection of my Nintendo 64 games. If you have liked the video so far, please comment below. I always like hearing what you have to say about the games that I've talked about, and if you remember them or what your thoughts on them were. And if you haven't already done so, please click the subscribe button just below and like the video, and I'll be back soon with another part of my Nintendo 64 collection.